channel. My name is Hannibal, and today I'm going to be talking about my postpartum journey. I make motherhood videos, just my motherhood journey, some different tips and tricks and just things that I am experiencing along the way. I also just do little video tidbits about things going on in the world and my perspective on them as a first-time mom and just a mom in general. So if this is your type of video, then please subscribe below. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my postpartum journey. Okay, I feel like postpartum is something that our society doesn't talk enough about, and that it's just a lot of navigating and a lot of things that you should be prepared for. So if you are a first-time mom or you are pregnant and you're going to be becoming a first-time mom, or you possibly had a baby in the past and you haven't had a baby in a long time and you kind of forget what postpartum is like, I'm just gonna kind of go into my own experience. I think it's really important to recognize that everybody's experiences when it comes to postpartum are massively different. I mean, some people, they just breeze through it and it's very easy for them. Some people have more hormonal issues. Some people have really bad postpartum depression, postpartum anger, postpartum anxiety. There's so many different things that a woman can experience during postpartum. So I think it's important to remember that everyone has outside external factors that are affecting their journey. So I just kind of wanted to give a couple examples of things that I found out along the way, and just so you can better prepare for your postpartum journey and just I think it's so important when going into things to have a sense of awareness of what you could experience. I remember someone asking me if you look into postpartum depression, you're probably going to get postpartum depression, but I don't think that's true. I think it's important to know the symptoms and to know how to handle it, because there's so many things that you can do if you start feeling depressed. Baby blues is completely normal. So there are a lot of things that you can do. So I'm just going to kind of go into my own experience with postpartum, and you can take away what you want with it. So I'm going to kind of start with when I was at the hospital, because I feel like that has a big play on everything. I'm not going to go too much into my experience just because I'll do a birth story or something later on, but I'll just touch on it. So I really wanted to have a natural induction of birth. I wanted to just my water to break and magically okay, it's time, how you see in the movies. That does not happen. Either you're gonna be, for your first baby, you'll probably be a bit over your due date. I know it's probably hard to hear. But you probably will be for your first baby. Everyone's different. I've had a friend that 2 days before her due date, she was, her water broke. So it just depends. But for me, I was becoming overdue, and in my own experience, when I was born, there was meconium for me. So I was a little bit worried about meconium and everything. So I did, in fact, get induced, and I really did not want to be induced, but that's okay. So I was. So the first tip about postpartum: if you are being induced, please research what medication they are giving you when you're being induced. There's Pitocin. There's so many different types of medicine, we'll call it medicine, that they can give you to induce labor. So I did not research this, and I fully regretted it when I was in this situation. I also will say, ask your doctor these questions. Ask them what you're going to be given while you are still pregnant. Do not go in the day of your induction day and just take what they give you, because I did that. And then I asked a question after I had been induced, and I said, oh, what do you use for this isn't Pitocin? All the YouTubers I watched, they were induced with Pitocin. And she said, no, this is what we use for abortions. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? What? So I got really afraid and freaked out, and my mom was researching it, my sister was researching it, and looking back, that made me feel really emotional after birth and guilty. And I think it's important that you're fully aware of what is being put in your body. Like, I know we go into hospitals and we just automatically trust the doctors, and I respect that, but I do think it's important that we are aware, especially when we're postpartum and our minds are already so busy and overwhelmed and we're exhausted and sleep deprived. Like, it's so important to really know what is going to go on with your body. So, first tip, if you're being induced, please make sure that you ask what exactly they're going to be using. And so because I was induced, my labor went really, really quickly. And at a point, it became a bit traumatic because my daughter's heart rate kept dropping, and the nurse was like saying it's an emergency, and then some people were not. And then it was just like, it went very, very quickly. They told me I probably wouldn't go into active labor for 2 days. I went into active labor a couple hours later. The nurses were changing shifts, and so I got extra induction medication, and it just created kind of like this overwhelming environment, and that definitely affected me during postpartum, like drastically, especially getting home. I feel like I had a lot more like anxiety, and I want to say one of the most important things is be prepared for your birth. Just be prepared for your birth. Ask questions, talk to your doctor, talk to the nurses, and really get a good understanding of what you're going to be doing that day. And if you're just going into active labor on your own, just naturally going into active labor, then make sure with that last appointment that you are really asking questions and having a good understanding. And another thing that made my postpartum journey kind of difficult was that when my daughter was born, doctors tell you different things. Like, I saw like 10 different doctors at the hospital, and everyone tells you something different. All the nurses tell you something different. Everything is like different. And being a first time mom, you're like, well, who do I listen to? Like, I don't know. Like, this is my first time doing this, so I don't know what I'm doing. But go with your gut. Go with your gut. You're going to get so many different opinions. You are going to be told to do different things. Go with what you think is best. Go with what you think is best. Don't overthink it. Just go with what you think is best, and have conversations with your husband or your partner prior to coming home. Like, know exactly what you want to do, and also have conversations about what you want to do at the hospital. There's vaccines that they get. If you want your epidural, if you don't want your epidural, make sure your partner or husband knows that, so they can also help you to communicate that during the experience of birth. So that's just some tidbits about birth, because I feel like that will have a large impact on how you respond postpartum. Now, another thing that I guess you could say is a tip, because this also affects postpartum, is to know exactly what you're going to do for feeding. Breastfeeding, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Breastfeeding is tough. It is very, very tough. It is going to be one of the hardest things that you do, and it hurts. Like, labor is very painful. I'm not going to sugarcoat that either. But I feel like as time goes on, you don't have a memory of the pain from your birth. You just remember it as being beautiful. Like, I just remember my birth being so absolutely amazing and beautiful, and I would do it 10 times again. Like, I'm so grateful to have had that experience, and to have my daughter with me now. And so I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but breastfeeding is very, very hard, and I think it also plays a huge, huge role in your postpartum journey. Knowing that sole adult responsible for feeding your child, okay? If you are a first-time mom, you are going to learn that breastfeeding is something that really has to be learned, and it's painful, and everyone's opinions will be really different of what you should do. When I was first approached by the pediatrician at the hospital, they told me, you should just do formula. Your baby's smaller, just do formula. And I said, well, I really want to try to breastfeed. So know what you want to do. Also, at the hospital, they have lactation specialists there. If you're doing a natural home birth, there's lactation specialists that you can reach out to. I had a lot of friends that had recommendations when I got home, but I just got help from my mom, honestly. and my doctor. Your pediatrician will help you with breastfeeding as well. So if you're struggling postpartum, contact your child's pediatrician. They are there to support you. Why? Because they are there to support your child, and part of your child's health and development is being fed correctly. So make sure if you have questions about breastfeeding to ask your pediatrician. My pediatrician literally saved me when it came to breastfeeding. And so you see your pediatrician, I think like a day or two after you get home, and you should definitely communicate to them any concerns that you have. You're going to have concerns. So that's a major thing with postpartum, is like you are going to have a lot of new anxieties. You're going to have some worries, especially being a new mom. Like I was worrying about things that I didn't even think like I would worry about, or even like discuss with my husband prior to having a baby. I had no idea that was something that was going to affect me. So have conversations, ask your doctor prior to having the baby, and talk to your pediatrician when you have questions. I would not recommend asking a bunch of people because everyone will have different opinions. Find a pediatrician that you trust and stick to that person's opinion. I also don't always take doctors' words as gospel, but I personally very, very much trust my doctor, and I go with what my doctor says. Pediatricians also are very aware that you are experiencing postpartum, and they have resources for you as well. If you just talk to them about it, I'm sure they will give you lots of different resources. When it comes to feeding, so I'm gonna go back to that. When it comes to feeding, the bottom line is fed is best. If you are having a hard time, mentally, emotionally, whatever the case may be, fed is best. If you have to go to formula, you have to go to formula. If you want to stick it out and you feel like you're going to feel guilty later for not sticking out, then just keep going. I promise you it will get easier. But what made it easier for me and what changed my entire breastfeeding experience was nipple guards. I got the ones by Medela. I'll do a postpartum must-have, and I'll go more into the nipple guards. But I'm just going to quickly say that my doctor, or our pediatrician, she literally had my husband leave the doctor's office, go to Target and pick up the nipple guards. And she taught me how to use them. I get home and I'm trying to feed Paisley with the nipple guards, and I just start crying because I just could not figure them out. They were falling off. I couldn't flip them on. I'm like, are they clean? Like, okay, like what if they're not clean and sanitized? And it was this whole thing. But I told myself that I needed to stick it out. And a lot of times people will say like, oh, the baby has like a tongue twist, or like there's so many things they're going to tell you why the baby's not eating. And honestly, a lot of times what my pediatrician has told me is that the woman, again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm just saying what I was told, but women's nipples are not always shaped for feeding. So the nipple guard just basically shapes your nipples so that you're able to feed your baby. And it's not something that you have to do forever. So I used a nipple guard for 2 weeks, and I just winged my daughter off for 2 days. Those 2 days were a little tough of going back to not using it, but literally after that, I had no more pain breastfeeding at all, like zero amount of pain at all. So if you know anyone that is breastfeeding and is struggling, please go get them nipple guards, because I'm telling you, if they just stick it through for 2 weeks of using them and shape their nipple, they are not going to have pain anymore. Again, not a doctor. I'm just saying with my experience, I used them religiously for 2 weeks. My daughter did get used to them, but it was pretty easy to get her off them. And my breastfeeding experience was completely different. So that's just a little bit. And I believe that a lot of the reason that postpartum can get really emotional and draining is because we are constantly feeding. I didn't really expect that. Like when I was like looking into like what to expect after my daughter was born, like I didn't expect to not sleep as much as I wasn't. Like I know people say like, oh, be prepared to like not sleep anymore, but like I didn't really understand what they were talking about. Like you're not going to sleep. However, a huge thing that will help you if you're breastfeeding is to pump. Please try it. It is so important that you get sleep in order to recover yourself. I mean, you just had a friggin' baby. Like, you literally just had a baby. Your entire body needs to recover. And not just like our minds from hormones, but your body needs to recover as well. So it's so important that you do catch up on sleep. What we did, our daughter, they said, was born small, even though a lot of doctors disagree. She was 7 pounds and she was very long. I think 19. Yeah. But we were not able to sleep at the hospital at all. Like, someone came in every single hour. So we were coming home without any sleep. So I highly recommend having like your mom or your dad or your sister or in-law or whoever come and help. And just so you and your husband can go upstairs and sleep, like for 2 hours even. Just get a little bit of sleep. And if you're breastfeeding, pump. I mean, of course, with formula, you can have your partner feed your child, but with breastfeeding, like, the only way is if you pump. My biggest regret was not learning how to use my pump before I had a baby. So I was like, I had all the pump pieces like cleaned and out. I don't even think I had them out. I think I had to like take them out and clean them. And I was so tired, but like, I just needed some help. I just needed some sleep, and I was like dreading learning how to pump. I thought it was going to be this like difficult, confusing thing. I just have the Spectra pump, the pink one. It was so easy. Like, just take your pump out and use it. You do have to clean the parts and you have to be kind of careful about it, but that will make everything so much easier, so much easier. And then when it comes to milk supply, like, if you are having a hard time with your milk supply, then you are told to pump and to express breast milk. That was really helpful for me. And also, the one thing I didn't know about that I wish that I had in the beginning was a Haakaa, because I did have a lot of milk supply. So, which I don't want to make anyone feel negative if they don't have their milk supply coming in, because I think that fed is best personally. Like, I'm actually full on formula now with my daughter, and she's only 4 months. So like, I completely understand making that decision. It's a big decision, and I respect that. And I don't want to talk about like my milk supply and someone be upset that they didn't get theirs, because there's a reason for everything. And we're very, very lucky these days to have all of the resources that we do have, and formula and such. But the Haakaa you can use on one breast while you're feeding with the other breast. And that makes postpartum so much easier, because you can finally get some sleep. Sleep is so hard to get, but it's so important for your recovery and just emotionally. Sleep deprivation is a real thing in postpartum, and I think that it's one of the number one leading causes of postpartum depression is sleep deprivation. I was very sleep deprived at one point, and there was a time where I woke up and I literally thought that I had fallen asleep holding my daughter and that I was laying on her, and I just started like hyperventilating and freaking out, and I was like crying, and like then like I came back to, and I was like, oh, like she's in her bassinet sleeping, like what? So I will say that was like a really, I'm getting like emotional talking about it, but like that was like a really hard point in my postpartum journey where I was like, okay, like I need to figure something out, because I'm so tired that I'm having nightmares. And I think I probably personally would have had the nightmares regardless of the sleep deprivation, just because of like the hormones and being afraid of a lot of things. But sleep does help. So having the Haakaa or a pump is really helpful. Even just giving them a bottle. Like, there was one point where I remember our doctor's like, just give her an ounce of formula, and we did. And I didn't want to, but like I knew that that's what I needed to do in order to be coherent. Like, I was just so tired from feeding. You're feeding about every 1 to 3 hours. Paisley ate about every 2 hours, I'd say. Sometimes it was like an hour and a half, but it's not that like you are feeding them for like a super long time. It's the fact that you're learning how to breastfeed and you're teaching your child how to breastfeed. And so that's what makes it really tricky, is like you're spending a lot of time like, oh my gosh, like how do I get them to attach? Like they're not attaching, and are they eating? And like, so the whole process of feeding is what I think is considered takes a little bit longer. So just be patient and Haakaa and pump. Those are both very, very helpful. You need your sleep, period. If you need to give them an ounce of formula so that you can get some sleep, please do that. Like, getting sleep is essential to your postpartum journey. It's essential to your baby, because your baby needs you and your baby needs you to be a happy and healthy mom. So take that step if you need to. I think that it's completely appropriate. Always ask your doctor first before you switch from breastfeeding to formula. I highly, highly recommend making that switch with the guidance of your pediatrician, which is what we did. So, postpartum depression. So this is a really tricky topic to talk about. I think that people really get baby blues and postpartum depression really mixed up. Baby blues, I will almost guarantee you that you will experience baby blues when coming home at some point. I didn't know there was a difference until I experienced it myself. And my sister actually told me about it because her in-laws were talking to her about like letting me know that that's something that I would probably experience was baby blues. And they're just like this like emotional experience you have where like you're sad about things that like you didn't expect to be sad about, or you start having like doubts in yourself, and it's almost like you become kind of like insecure about being a mom, and you're a new mom, and you just, like, I didn't feel good enough. I felt like everyone was right and I was like wrong. I felt like everyone thought I was a bad mom. Like, I had all of these feelings that like I knew deep down weren't true, but like I was experiencing. I also had like so many worries about something happening to my daughter, and just from like all the scary things that I've read and like looking at statistics. And I just want you to remember to take a deep breath and give yourself some love and just be loving to yourself. And I like just like have some like words of affirmation, look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. I just gave birth to a baby, and my baby is healthy and happy, and I am okay, and things will get easier. That is the key. I literally told my sister this the other day. She's talking about having a baby soon. I told her that the one thing that I wish someone told me is I promise you with time, it gets easier. The first couple weeks are super hard. I'm not sugarcoating it. For me, they were very, very hard. However, after about a month, I started to feel like myself. I started to like feel like I could just have like a normal conversation. I didn't feel so tired. I didn't feel so worried about my baby. I mean, when I came home, I was very worried about my child, like everything I was worried about. But I want you to really remember that everything will be okay. You're gonna be okay, and just think positively. As hard as that is, just tell yourself like everything gets easier. That's what got me through that first month, because I was like really battling of like what I wanted to do in terms of feeding. I was having a lot of like emotional things going on, and the baby blues, and just like also people have so many different opinions, and they really weigh on you too when you're like already emotional and like your hormones like are completely dropping. So just be mindful of that and tell yourself like it will get easier, and just keep pushing through and it will get easier, I promise. And just really try to soak in those like special moments with your baby and your husband, and don't feel guilty about anything. Everything you're doing is amazing, and don't feel guilty. You are enough, and what you're doing is amazing, period. And you just birthed a baby, so you're literally incredible. Like, you're literally a warrior. So do not worry what anybody has to say about anything. Just keep doing what's best for you. Okay, postpartum depression. So I would say there's like kind of a mix of things. There's postpartum depression, anxiety, anger, and those all can kind of like all go back to postpartum depression. It could just mean you're experiencing that. Please, if you're experiencing that, the hospital will give you a bunch of resources. If you're worried about experiencing it, tell them at the hospital, because they will give you so many resources. And I think it's so important just to have those on hand. So if you are having those experiences, that you can reach out to someone and talk to someone about the postpartum depression. I will say that it comes later on in postpartum where you start to experience that. And honestly, the best thing, in my opinion, is to have some time to yourself. That helps a lot. I know that sounds silly and you're like, no, it's just the hormones. Like, it is hormones, but having just a moment to be like, I am Hannah. Like, I'm still a person. I'm not just like this robot who's sleep deprived. Like, you are still a person. Like, have your husband or your mom or whoever watch your baby for a little bit and go get your nails done or something that makes you feel good. Or do your own nails, or just something that is like some self-love and makes you kind of feel like a sense of reality. Like, you are mom, you do have to take care of your baby. You can't just like go off and like get your nails done every day. But I'm just saying, like, do something that feels like familiar and good. Like, even like read a book or something. Like, you're gonna be like, I don't have time to read a book. What are you talking about? But like, just please take a few minutes to yourself, because you're gonna be like, I haven't like gone to the bathroom in a week without like rushing so that I can go and take care of my baby. So please try to find the time to just take a deep breath, recollect yourself, go back, and you're gonna be great. Also, something that will help with postpartum that I didn't do, I had everything like set up and put into like containers and organized, but have everything open and learn how to use it. You are going to feel so overwhelmed with learning how to take care of a baby. Have everything open. Okay, and then another thing about postpartum, please make sure that you and your husband or you and your partner talk about visitors. That was a huge one for me and my husband. So prior to having a baby, we talked a lot about having visitors is a very, very personal decision. And I also think it's important to talk to your doctor about it and what they think. We had our baby during Christmas time, which is when a lot of different like viruses were going around and sicknesses. And so our doctor was very much against us having visitors. Whereas my husband and I thought it'd be like completely fine to have people over. And because of postpartum, I feel like my worries about having visitors really altered and changed. So I think it's important to talk to a pediatrician prior to having the baby and make that decision prior and really be on the same page with your husband about visit to them. Communication with your husband is so important during postpartum. They need to know everything. So if you are having the baby blues, or you are having those nightmares, or you are experiencing things like that, please communicate that to your husband. They're supposed to be there to listen and support you, because it kind of helps you to see like these things aren't real. They're not a reality. They are postpartum, and sometimes you can get lost in the worries, and you don't want to do that. So make sure like you do communicate with your husband. Tell them what you need. After like, I would say a month, you start to feel better. Eventually go to your 6 to 8 week appointment depending on how you delivered, and then you will get the clear to exercise. I remember when I got the clear to exercise, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna exercise? Like, what? I'm super afraid to exercise. Like, are you sure? Like, do you wanna check me again? Because I'm pretty sure like I'm not normal yet. And I was. And when you are given the clear to exercise, exercise. You don't have to go and run 4 miles, but just go for a nice walk, get out of nature, go up and down the stairs 40 times. I don't know, do something that gets your heart rate up, that gets you sweating a little bit. Something that's out in nature is helpful just for like your overall mental health. Have a community of women that are going through the same thing that you can talk to, like mommy groups and stuff. I have one with some of my girlfriends that live around here, and we have like a group chat that we talk all the time, and I can ask questions and things like that, and that's really helpful. There are lots of Facebook groups, there's lots of Zoom things, the hospital gives you tools. Like, there's so many resources out there to help you with your postpartum journey, and I highly recommend finding that community for yourself in order to really be able to ask these questions. And if you're having fears and things, to see that a lot of those fears are throughout all women, and that you have a good support system. Having a good support system is key. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna talk about is your body postpartum. So this was something I was trying to be extremely prepared for. I mean, I bought everything you can possibly buy for postpartum. I still have that box, and it is still completely full, actually. The only thing that I really used for postpartum was pads and disposable underwear. So, like, you will be told to buy a million things for postpartum, and I will do a postpartum must-have because I don't think I needed anything really that I bought, and I actually ended up ordering things that I didn't know that I needed, just my own personal experience. So I will make a video about that, but I will say you will need disposable diapers. You will bleed. You will bleed. It's not as bad as you think. I literally thought I will say though, everyone's recovery is different. I had a 2nd-degree tear, and so I imagined more bleeding because I had a 2nd-degree tear, which is like in the middle, and that's what my friend had, and her experience with her 2nd-degree tear was a lot worse than mine. So it just depends on how your body heals, but so it is important to like have things on hand, but I will say that we live in the age where everything can be delivered to your front porch really, really quickly. So you can order something or have your husband or a friend or a family member go out and get something for you if you need it. But I would recommend having like a list of everything that they say to get, and then just get things like you of course need. Like you of course need disposable underwear and pads, like you will bleed. You also need a stool softener, 100%. You're gonna need that. The first going to the bathroom is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Everyone was like, oh, it's the worst thing in the world. I didn't think it was that bad, but I did take Mucinex every single day religiously. I even brought it with me to the hospital. So make sure like you are taking a stool softener. It's not that bad. You will bleed for a long, long time. You just will, but you just kind of get used to it, and it doesn't really matter. Like it's not like the same as having like a period or something. It's not that bad. And if I got the epidural, if you're doing a natural birth, I have a lot of friends who have had different experiencing with recovery, and I'm actually hoping to have them eventually come on here and talk about their experiences with postpartum after a natural birth. But everyone's experiences are so different. So if you are having a harder time recovering with your body, like I completely feel for you and I respect you, because I know that it is so hard when you are in physical pain and you're trying to take care of your child, because there were points where I started crying because I was in such physical pain. I had trouble walking around. There were times that it was hard to go to the bathroom if I forgot to take my stool softener, or if I didn't take Motrin. I did take Motrin every couple hours. So I was taking something to help with the pain. So that could be a reason it was easier for me. Have Motrin on hand. I didn't have Motrin. I bought all the things that you think you need, and I didn't buy Motrin. My brother actually brought me Motrin my 2nd day home because I didn't have it. You're not supposed to, if you're breastfeeding, you're supposed to take only Motrin. I think you could take, yeah, I took Tylenol too. I would switch between Motrin and Tylenol for my body. Because down there did kind of hurt. Not kind of, it really hurt. And then also like you probably will get stitches. So ask your doctor how to take care of those stitches, because I didn't ask my doctor and I had to end up Googling it. And you will pass some clots. So you should probably talk to your doctor about that before you have a baby. I did, and I did not have the conversation, but I did pass one, and I freaked out and I called the doctor and I was crying like, I think like I'm dying. This is horrible. You're fine. Call your doctor or ask them ahead of time what is normal. There's different sizes of clotting. You should ask them what is normal and what's not, so you don't just start freaking out like me, and you have a good awareness. And they will tell you a little bit in the hospital what's normal. Like I think they told me a quarter. I'm like, this is bigger than a quarter. But it was fine. Postpartum things that happen later on. I was not very good about taking my vitamins. I did not take them religiously. In the beginning, when I was breastfeeding, I did. When I stopped breastfeeding, I stopped taking them. You do have like a little bit of hair coming out. I'm noticing now, which is funny, in my mommy group, they said that you will start losing your hair around 4 months, and Paisley's about to be 4 months old, so I'm 4 months out. And I am seeing a lot more hair come out in the shower, but not where I'm like too concerned or anything. I do notice that like here in this area and here in this area, like it is a little bit thinner, but I'm not like balding or anything, but you probably will lose some hair at some point. And for the stomach, like I still feel like my stomach is, I still have like a little bit of a bump, but I'm 4 months out and I finally am starting to be like, okay, like my stomach is really going back to how it was before. Hence, I am eating really healthy and being really careful about how many calories I'm consuming every day. I'm eating healthy, not less, just healthier. I mean, I ate healthy while pregnant, but like I did put on more weight. So I am trying to be healthy about that to get my body ready to have another baby, hopefully pretty soon. So like your body, I feel like around 4 months for me, well, I'm gonna say probably around like 3 months is when I was like, okay, like I can see my, my body becoming how it was before. And you also start feeling like yourself. Like just recently I started like wearing makeup again and doing my hair and feeling motivated to do these things and just feeling good about myself and not just Paisley's mom, but also feeling like, okay, like I am Hannah still at the same time. I said the body thing was the last thing I'm gonna talk about, but I will say that one of the hardest things about postpartum is, for me, is that I lost a sense of myself and I was like, who am I? Who's Hannah? Like, I don't know myself anymore. I'm this like new person. Like, I don't know who I am. And that was really difficult. And actually, like everyone I've talked to about motherhood has had that same feeling. Everyone's different. If you haven't felt this, that's awesome. But like, I will say like becoming a mom, you're like transitioning into like a new life almost. Like you just feel like you don't even know your past self and you don't know how to merge the two. Like you don't know how to merge being a mom and being who you were before a mom. So I will say like that starts to kind of merge itself. You might feel like out of place, or like you're not enough. You're enough. You're in a place. You were born to be a mom. You're amazing. You're gonna get through this, and you will start to feel a sense of self that resembles you as your new being of a mother and of being yourself. So go easy on yourself and remember that you can do this. You are awesome and you are enough. Again, I am 4 months postpartum, and I will say that I'm feeling, well, 3.5 months. I will say that I'm feeling really good, really happy. There were a lot of dips in the road, a lot of things I have learned, which I will talk about more as I go on in my postpartum journey and just sharing my journey with you. Please comment below your experience with postpartum. Please comment below what parts of this video were helpful so I know how to help you. Just anything that you want to comment on when it comes to postpartum. I am super open to having conversations about it and responding and commenting because I think that it's important to have a community of like-minded people where you can discuss things like motherhood and your journey versus my journey, because our journeys will be different yet the same. And motherhood is one of the most beautiful experiences that you will ever experience in your life. Becoming a new mom, you're going to find so much beauty in things, and like the more that your child starts to like have a personality, you're just going to just fall in love with motherhood. And it is tough in the beginning. It definitely is tough in the beginning, but it does get easier. It does. I promise it will get easier. Don't be hard on yourself. You're doing amazing. You're going to do amazing. And just make sure that you are prepared when it comes to yourself emotionally, physically. Really go over these conversations, that like any concerns you have with your doctor, with your husband, with your family. Really talk about things that could arise. You will have emotional responses to a lot of things, so just be really prepared on that decision making. If you have any questions about postpartum, you can go onto my Instagram or you can just comment below, and I would love to talk to you about postpartum. If you need any advice, if you want me to like elaborate on something I've talked about, I can even send you like a voice message. So anything that you need postpartum, please let me know. I'm here to help. And I will say my final thing, make sure during your journey that you are close with God and that you are constantly praying and sharing this journey with God. God will be there for you throughout this journey. He is there to support you as well, and God is with you always on your labor journey, your postpartum journey. God is always with you, holding your hand and holding you through these times. So if you're ever feeling low, best advice is to take a shower, because it always makes you feel better when you're just taking a shower. Take a shower and say some prayers. relax, and you will do amazing. All right. Again, my name is Hannah, and this was just a little bit or a lot about my postpartum journey. I will be making a postpartum must-have very soon, and that will include everything that I actually used during my postpartum and everything that I did not use. I probably won't even go into everything I didn't use because it was a lot. So I'll go into everything I did use and everything that I had to go out and buy so that you can have those things on hand. I will be sharing that video soon. So if you would like to see my postpartum must-haves, then subscribe below so that you are updated of when I have a new video. All right, guys, bye.